I'm Jang from ultimaterc.com, and this is an RC tune-up where I take a ready-to-run or kit stock RC and for as little money as reasonably possible make that RC way better. This is the Exceed RC Super Mad Drift. It is a 1/8 scale on-road drift car. Brushless, electric, ready to run. Being a drift car, it comes with hard plastic tires and that makes it slide all around. But I know I wasn't alone in being curious about how well this could be turned into an on-road grip car. In my Super Mad Drift review video, I showed the results of some retuning that made the car look pretty decent around an on-road track. Now I'm going to show you exactly what I did. Let me start off by saying that this did not require any major conversion. In fact, almost all of the parts remain stock. One exception was the servo. The stocker was just way too slow and way too weak. Now there are dozens of cheap and good servo options out there. I went with a Power HD 1501. It's about 12 bucks. The only other change of components came in the form of new wheels and tires. This was just unavoidable. You can't do grip driving with drift tires. These soft rubber slicks came pre-mounted and they're made by a company called Sweep Racing. Now for the tuning changes. I wanted to lower the ride height and stiffen the suspension, so I moved the shocks to their outermost holes on the A-arms. After some experimentation, I settled on the third hole in up top on the front shock tower, and I used the same settings at the rear, both up top and at the bottom. I stiffened the rear sway bar by moving its mounting point inward on both sides. It started out all the way out at the end, and by moving it in, it becomes as stiff as it can be, without replacing it with a thicker bar. This helped remove some understeer. Also at the rear, I shortened the camber links by moving them in one hole to the innermost hole on the hubs. This required tightening down on the turnbuckles to keep the camber at about -1 degree. The car suffers from a lot of positive camber gain at the outer wheels as the car leans and turns. The more you shorten the links, the less this happens. At all 4 corners, I tightened down the droop screws or down travel limiters. That screws way in there. Here's a view of it from the underside. See it? Each of these hits a special tab on the chassis, preventing the suspension arm from going down but so far. This prevents the inside of the car from raising up in a turn, thereby limiting roll. Fully loaded from rest, my car has about 3 millimeters of down travel before the wheels start to pick up. I wanted to lower the body both for aesthetic reasons and to bring down the center of gravity. At the rear, I just pinned the supports into the 4th hole from the top on the body posts. At the front, I was also able to go with the 4th hole from the top, but the holes in the body didn't quite line up, so I used a heat gun to help bend the posts back. The big front foam bumper got in the way of lowering the body, so I had to trim off a little bit from its corners and bevel its front top edge. I did this with an X-Acto knife and some care and patience. The body still wasn't perfect, and I found that when going over berms or getting really hard on the brakes, I would still have just a little bit of tire rub. I applied some aluminum tape to help keep that from wearing through the paint. It's also worth noting that this body is made of PVC, not Lexan. As a result, it will crack pretty easily. I haven't done it to mine yet, but I would recommend reinforcing this at key areas with some shoe glue and drywall tape. I've already got a whole separate video on how to do that. And that was it. With some new tires and a host of suspension changes, this drift car was able to hug the turns around the on-road course at NorCal Hobbies in Union City, California pretty nicely. To make the car handle even better, I would want to try to find some different springs that would fit onto these shocks to stiffen it up even more, and then start working on different differential settings. This tune-up here was just the cheapest and easiest way to tidy things up, and it established a much better baseline than box stock or even box stock with new tires. I do have to concede though that this car will probably never be anywhere near as good as some of the cars that cost many times as much, but have some on-road specific parts. This car has a lot of caster angle up front, and as a result there's a tremendous amount of camber gain in turns. It's way worse than what happens when the car leans, and there's just no easy way to fix that. The motor mount also won't accept motors any larger than stock, so you can't get much more power out of it. But for the vast majority of RCers out there who never really competitively race, this setup is great fun for practice at a track, parking lot, or cul-de-sac. Again, only a couple things were purchased for this tune-up, bringing the total price to just over $300 ready to run, with batteries. And I even got the more expensive so-called race edition of the car. So that's it for this RC tune-up. Thanks very much for watching. I hope that you are inspired to try out some tuning changes on your own vehicles to make them way better for not a whole lot of money. Most RCs nowadays have a lot of tuning options built in, so don't be afraid to experiment. If you get stuck or need some pointers, start up a thread in the forums at ultimaterc.com. It's always great to benefit from the experience of others. Please be sure to take a fraction of a second to hit the like button on this video if you liked it, or if you didn't like it, please hit the thumbs down button. Either way helps me out quite a lot. Thanks in advance, and I'll catch you next time.